everyone, so in today's video, it's gonna be a long one because a lot of you already know that I have just a mild obsession with cream blush. But this is kind of like my favorite makeup category to try out. I love cream blushes and I love that so many brands are coming out with them and there's just way more formulas to choose from. But that also means that I've tried out a lot and I'm also really picky with my formulas. So in today's video, I'm going to be walking you through my entire collection here, doing some swatches and just talking you through the formulas. This is going to be a long one, but I hope that you guys enjoy it. So if you do enjoy it, please make sure to give this video a thumbs up. And if you find me tolerable, if you enjoy the content, I would love to have you subscribe and have you back on my channel. So with all of that, let's just do this. So here's what we're working with. I have a lot of cream blush, obviously, and it's probably, I think, my favorite makeup category to review, to play with, to try. Let's just... No one needs this much cream blush, but this does give me an opportunity to review every single formula that I own to hopefully give you an idea of the formulas that you might like and the formulas that you might want to stay away from. So first up, we have the Patrick Ta Double Take Cream Blushes. You can see they're a little messy because I use them quite often, especially the shade in Do We Know Her. This is a really gorgeous shade that I love. You can see the powder is just a really pretty peachy pink, very wearable, but then you take the cream, and that's how this whole product works, is that you take the powder and then you just sort of tap the cream right on top, and the cream is more of a pinky sort of coral shade, and it ends up being such a complementary duo with each other because on the apples of the cheeks, or really anywhere you just want that sort of pop, you can add the cream for a little bit more pigment, but you still have this really pretty peachy base to the cheeks that I think makes for a really pretty three-dimensional cheek look. As a whole, I think it actually ends up being very flattering to the cheeks. Again, it gives them a shape, it gives them a pop. It's a great technique and they have made it very easy with this compact. And then I also have She's So LA, which is more of a bronzy shade. And I have to say I'm not as impressed with this one as I am with Do We Know Her, because I think you might be able to even see with the powder that the powder has a little bit of a sheen to it, like a sort of shift, which is okay, but I think sometimes it can highlight my texture, which I'm not a fan of. I do really adore the cream on this though. I think this is a really gorgeous bronzy cream. I use it on the cheeks on its own. I'm just not a fan of that powder as much as I am with this one. The powders are very thin, they're finely milled, they go on beautifully. And I know it seems a little bit weird to apply a cream on top of a powder, but it really works with this formula. I was surprised myself when I was reviewing these. So absolutely love this formula, especially the shade Do We Know Her, like I said before. And you'll probably be seeing this in a best of 2020 makeup because this summer it's been a go-to, a standby to throw onto the cheeks. Actually, I have a paper cut on this finger and I keep using it to swatch. Speaking of another product that I really enjoy for summer, but I mean, honestly, I love it year round. It is the Nudies Matte in Sunkissed. The reason I really enjoy this color is that it is kind of like a blush bronzer in one. And if you are someone like me that has pretty fair skin, it can be very difficult to find a bronzer that is flattering on the skin. This could certainly be used as a bronzer, but I prefer to use this just all over the cheeks. Like in the name, it gives you a very pretty sun-kissed look. The blend is very effortless with this formula. The Nudies Matte formula is one that people have recommended for a long time for good reason. It's because it's so versatile. With some cream formulas, you get more of a really sheer and dewy finish. That tends to be the go-to formula with a stick product. But this offers a really gorgeous sort of blotted matte finish, which makes it last a very long time on the skin, but it doesn't look flat. It still will give the skin a lifelike look, which is very much appreciated because you guys know I prefer for my skin to look like skin. With cream products, I think the advantage to using them is that they look more lifelike on the skin. So this is a really great long wear formula, and I just recommend this shade for sure if you have fair skin and you've been looking for a sort of bronzy blush shade and you haven't been able to find one that you like. I definitely recommend this one. This is another blush launch that you guys have have probably already seen on my channel. And these are the Fenty cream blushes. These are the two that I have kept. This is the shade Fuego Flush, and this is the shade Daiquiri Dip. I think both shades are absolutely gorgeous, and that is not a surprise because I actually truly think that Fenty creates some of the best makeup shades. Their shades, in my opinion, really are so well executed across the board. I mean, within their lip glosses, obviously their shade range as well. That ended up being no different with these blushes because you can see that these are very unique shades, but they are surprisingly wearable. Shade Daiquiri Dip is the perfect sunburnt red, absolutely gorgeous, and you can see it will blend out to more of a matte finish. And then there's also the shade Fuego Flush, which a lot of people would probably look at and be a little bit scared of. But personally, this is my favorite. It's more of like a tangerine orange yellow, such a unique shade, but there is like a fine glitter throughout, and I'm not sure what it is, but once you apply it to the cheeks, it just makes them pop. It really gives them a life, and I'm also not someone that likes glitter in my blush really at all, and this one somehow looks really pretty. This to me is one of the most unique blush shades that I have tried. So if you've been interested in the line and you're willing to kind of try something new, I 100% recommend Fuego Flush. But I have talked about in my review of this formula, they're just a little bit more difficult to blend than I would like personally. I think Fuego Flush I don't have as much issues with. I have found a couple of colors that are very close to these that I will show you a little bit later in the video. So yeah, I think the formula is nice, but there are some others out there that I think are better. Next up, we have these two blushes that I just love so much. And I think a lot of you probably already know that, but if you don't, or if you have not tried this blush, please do yourself a favor and pick one up. These are the Honest Beauty cream blushes. You can see they are pretty gross, especially the shade. But if anything, I hope that's just a testament to how often I use them and how much I adore them. This is the shade Coral Peach. Coral Peach is my favorite. If you couldn't already tell, I love a peachy coral blush quite a bit. And oh gosh, just a gorgeous creamy formula. And then this is the shade Peony Pink. Also an absolutely stunning formula. You can see the pigment is incredibly even. It's creamy, but the one thing that makes this formula so unique is that you could pretty much apply this with your eyes closed and it would look good every single time. The formula is pretty because it's creamy. You can see it blends really well onto the skin as well. I need my cream blush to blend as quickly and as easily as possible, and this one certainly does. But it also gives the cheeks a little bit of a stained effect while also looking lifelike and pretty. These last an incredible amount of time on the skin. They're quite pigmented, as you can see, which I think is a really good thing if you're looking for that creamy pop. But what sets this apart is that you could literally do your entire face. You could set your face with a powder, and then you could use a stippling brush or a beauty blender and just take a little bit and pop it onto the cheeks, and it would look perfect every single time. The formula is so fuss-free. That's really something that I look for in my makeup products, is that if they're consistently looking good every single time that I wear them, that is to me what sets a makeup product apart. If they're a little bit fussy sometimes, you know, like something like the Fenty, you know, I'm way less likely to put them on. Especially, you know, I want my makeup to look good every time, don't we all? I love when a product is so consistent with application, and these 100% are. I honestly don't think I've ever had a bad blush day when I've worn these, and they're also affordable, so that is always a good thing. So absolutely recommend these. Have recommended them for a very long time, and every person I turn them on to says they really enjoy them. A blush product that I am really glad that I retried is this lip and cheek color from Milk Makeup in the shade Werk. So this was a very well-loved cream blush by many for a long time. You can see it's just a very neutral, perfect, like everyday pink shade. But, you know, I was a little bit underwhelmed, and I do think it's probably because of the shade. I just think this shade in particular is a little bit too neutral for me. I do prefer a blush with a little bit of pop, but if you are looking for an ultra creamy cream blush that is very easy to work with, like you could literally take this, just swipe it on the cheeks, pat it out, and it would work. This is certainly one that I would recommend. And I think what makes the Milk Makeup cream products as a whole really nice is just they're dewy, they're fresh, there's something very effortless every day about them. They always come in travel-friendly packaging, and the formulas are just so easy to work with. I also feel the same way about the Milk Makeup cream bronzer. If anything, that's like one of my favorite cream bronzers of all time. I would just like to see Milk Makeup come out with a few more shades, some more deep shades. I would love to see like a really bright coral red. I mean, surprise, surprise, of course I would. So yeah, I just think they need to come out with some more shades because this formula is really good. Perfect for someone that just wants a fresh, dewy, everyday cream blush look. Also, something that I always mention with these is that you get an entire ounce of product. It's very common with a cream blush that you probably get around 0.2 to 0.3 ounces of product, and you get an entire ounce of this. So price per ounce, this is actually really affordable. So I always like to mention that. Next up, we have the Tower 28 Beach Please in Happy Hour. So I really wanted to love this. I actually had purchased one of the other shades, like the more nude pink shade, when these first came out. And back then I had experienced a little bit of patchiness. Like the product didn't necessarily want to stick to my cheeks, which was really disappointing because I think the creaminess and the way it looks is so gorgeous. You can see that is the shade, I just said it, Happy Hour, and just a stunning shade, completely up my alley. I adore the packaging, but there's just something about this shade as well. So I think it's just something about this formula that doesn't want to stick to my cheeks in certain areas. So I experience a little bit of patchiness. It's really disappointing. And the reason I haven't decluttered this yet is just because I will occasionally try and still make it work, but I haven't been able to, which is disappointing just because I think that this is such a gorgeous color. Again, love the packaging. I think the formula is really pretty too. Just something about it doesn't work with my skin. So unfortunately, this is a pass. Like I said before, if I can reach for a cream blush like the Honest Beauty and I know it's going to look good every single time, you know, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm not going to reach for this one as much. Next up, we have the Color Serum blushes from M Cosmetics. These are really an incredible formula, and I was really lucky to have received these from M Cosmetics when they first launched, but I know that now they actually have more shades, which I'm totally interested in. So this formula is right up someone's alley that loves a really juicy, dewy blush look. I mean, look at that, guys. It is a juicy, glassy looking blush. It will just give you that really glowy blush look very quickly. This is my favorite, which is why I swatched it first. It's the shade Sunset Sky. I got my sister onto this shade. If you apply this just to the tops of the cheeks, it will add that really beautiful pop. It will make your skin really look alive and very dewy, obviously. But it's also so nice because it kind of just looks like you have that touch of sunburn sort of peeking through your cheeks, which I think is a beautiful look. I also love the shade Pink Nectar. I put out way too much on my hand, but you get the picture. This is also a really vibrant pink shade. And in the bottle, I would be a little bit nervous to try it, but when you actually blend it out onto the skin, it gives you such a vibrancy. I think they did a really good job with these shades because they are so fresh looking. There is also the shade Rose Milk, which I know is a fan favorite because it's just a really perfect neutral pink. It's really nice to wear for every day. I think if you are just getting into cream blushes and you're afraid to kind of venture out, going with a more neutral pink shade is a good way to just try it out. This is a good shade to start with, in my opinion. And then there's also the shade Soft Amethyst. I am not a huge berry blush fan, but this one is really soft and pretty. And you can see that this blends out effortlessly. They have incorporated oils in here, so you can see that they sheer out really prettily, even with a very pigmented shade like Soft Amethyst. Like I said before, Sunset Sky is my favorite. These blushes are really perfect for those of you that love a glass skin look. You want that color and that pop to your cheeks, but you still want your skin to look dewy and fresh. I actually apply these and skip highlight completely. I even bring this color up onto the cheekbones. It just makes the quality of your skin look good. So I highly, highly recommend these if you love that really juicy blush look. Next up, let's talk about this little blush from Elizabeth Arden. It is the Ceramide Cream Blush in Nectar. And in my last sort of blush collection video, I mentioned this because this was actually my grandmother's before she passed. And I received her makeup bag and wanted to keep something of hers, so I decided to keep this. This is more of like a keepsake item, obviously. I have actually worn it a few times back when I had first received it, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful formula. Honestly, I don't want to swatch it just because I want to keep it for as long as possible, but it's a very, very creamy formula. I love how compact it is. It's like a little macaroon. It reminds me of her. It reminds me of how much I love her. I will always keep it, and I will always continue to mention it. A blush that's actually often compared to the Glossier Cloud Paints is the Flower Beauty Blush Bombs. I only have one shade. This is the shade Pinched. This just has such a glossy, pretty formula to it. You can see it gives you quite a bit of shine. This shade is not super pigmented because it's more of like a neutral peachy brown, but I've heard that other shades are more pigmented, so you'll just have to look through the shades and see which one best suits you. But I absolutely adore this formula because it's so easy to work with. It's quite dewy. You also don't have to worry about it really picking up your foundation, which I think some people do worry about when you're dealing with a super dewy blush. You can see that you can blend it out and sheer it to make it just look one with your skin, which I also really enjoy about these. There's something incredibly natural about them. They never look heavy on the skin, which is something I also worry about with more dewy blushes. It gives a life to the cheeks. They're affordable, and the shades across the board are just really beautiful as well. As for affordable blushes, this is definitely one that I recommend over and over if you really want a pretty dewy flush to the cheeks. Now, this one doesn't last a very long time on me, and that could be in part due to the color. But for the look that it gives the cheeks, I tend to not mind as much with this. If you're looking for a more long wear blush that's affordable, I would probably recommend the Honest Beauty. But if you want more of just a fresh, everyday sort of cream blush that gives you a lot of dew, I definitely recommend this one. Another cream blush that I definitely recommend is this one from Wet n Wild. And you never would have been able to tell me that Wet n Wild would be able to create a cream formula that I would really enjoy, but they absolutely have. This is the shade Hustle and Glow. I actually put this on my boyfriend one time and it looked gorgeous on him. I was actually kind of jealous. And anyway, so this is a perfect like tangerine shade. You can see it has a slight shift to it. So does this remind you of anything? Personally, this reminds me quite a bit of Fuego Flush from Fenty. Now the shades aren't completely the same. I mean, you can just look at this. It is pretty close. Like, it's gonna give you a very similar look. This is obviously way more affordable. They do have some other shades. The thing that I think makes the Wet n Wild superior in formula to the Fenty, in my opinion, is you can just see how easily it wants to blend and mesh into the skin. There's a silkiness about it, but it's still not too slippy that it wants to slide all over the face. This is a beautiful stick product to literally just apply straight to the face, and I definitely don't recommend that most of the time. So it's just such an easy product. It's affordable and accessible, and it's also a really fun color. So if you've been thinking about playing around with kind of like a tangerine orange blush, this is a really good place to start. I highly recommend this, and I've worn it on multiple occasions and just have felt so fresh. It gives you that vibrant look to your cheeks that's really nice, especially in the summer. And it also has that sort of shift and sheen to it, but there's no visible glitter once it's on the skin. So this this little tin is the Skinfood Fresh Fruit Lip and Cheek. And this, guys, is a total hidden gem. First of all, wow, look at those shades. So fresh and juicy, like perfect little fruit colored shades. And what's so beautiful and unique about this, in my opinion, is that they did kind of give you a palette format. So you could blend and mix colors to get like the perfect shade that you're after. And all three of these shades are absolutely stunning. There's just this absolutely beautiful strawberry red shade that it's just to die for. Like, even looking at this makes me hungry. Like, it makes me want just like a big bowl of strawberries. There's also this more peachy pink shade that's perfect for like an everyday neutral look. It has a pop to it, but it's not really strong like this one is. It's kind of like a fresh grapefruit color. Absolutely stunning orange shade at the bottom. Look at that. They just are incredibly creamy, so smooth. Even putting my finger into the pan to swatch them is satisfying because they're so melty, but they're also quite thin. So they don't feel heavy, creamy on the skin, but they still offer you such a gorgeous, dewy, like fruity blush look. I really love the name because it's just so accurate to the colors and the way they actually look on the cheeks. In my opinion, this is a total hidden gem. The packaging is also absolutely stunning. And I just think in general that Korean makeup is quite underrated. And as a whole, I just think the formula is so on point. I've definitely tried some Skinfood skincare, but I was so pleasantly surprised by these blushes. They're just so fresh, so easy. And I did want to mention that if you were looking into something like Daiquiri Dip from Fenty and you weren't a fan of the way the formula blended, you can see that this palette will give you a very similar look. So that is Daiquiri Dip. You can mix and match these shades to pretty much get a very similar look to that. So I highly recommend this. It is more dewy than the Fenty formula, but I still find that this wears really well on my skin. I never find that it picks up my foundation. So such a little cute hidden gem that I definitely recommend. Next we have the Stay Naked face and lip tints from Urban Decay. These are a new launch from them that I actually recently played with in a playing with new makeup video. This is the shade 1993 and this is the shade Bang. So these are very dewy but pretty sheer formulas. You can see that they give you quite a lot of light, but the weird thing about this formula is just how slippy they are. You can see that this has really blended out very quickly and it just leaves you with like a barely there sort of look, especially the shade 1993. Now Bang will leave a little bit more color. You can see that one is a little bit more pigmented, but I just think that this is not going to be a suitable formula for a lot of people. And because they are so slippy and because they're so like buttery, like very melty. You can see that they kind of just like immediately melt when you put them onto the hand. I think that though they look really pretty when done well, I think they could just be a little bit finicky with other products because they are so slippy. Now, there are some formulas out there like the Cosmetics drops that if you like really try, you could probably screw up your foundation using these if you were just kind of using them haphazardly. But if you're just gently patting them onto the skin, they're not going to. But I feel like a product like this, a lot more people would have difficulty with them because of how slippy they are and because the pigment isn't really there. So you're going to want to kind of build them up. And I think that's when you might start seeing some issues. So though I think in theory it's really pretty and I do think that they have looked cute on my cheeks before, I do think that there are just some other options around this price range that I would recommend over these. Again, the Patrick Ta blushes, the Nudestix blushes, even the Cosmetics blushes if you really want that dewy, fresh look. So do I think they're bad? Absolutely not. But do I think I'm going to be reaching for them a lot? Probably not. Again, just because I have standbys that I always depend on. Consistently, they look good on my skin. That's what I really look for. Another blush I recently recently tried this year is the Milani Cheek Kiss blush. It is a liquid blush. I have the shade Nude Flush. And I think this is a really pretty cream or liquid blush for those of you that just want a very fuss-free, everyday cream blush. You can see right now it has a little bit more dew, but this does set down on me a little bit. So it's not gonna leave you with a super, super dewy finish. There's just something very effortless about this. I think the pigment is really pretty. It won't pick back up on itself. It's been super exciting for me to watch drugstore brands go into the cream blush realm, if that makes sense. But a liquid blush like this is going to be really easy to work with. They have very neutral shades. They have a couple of more like bright pops of color. So yeah, if you were looking around online or at the drugstore and you were wondering about these, I definitely think they're pretty, and they're a good alternative if you were looking at something like the Flower Beauty blush bombs, but you want something a little bit more on the natural side. These lean more natural, and these will really give you that like more glassy look to your skin. So it just depends on like your skin type and the look that you're going for. Another very, very glossy looking cheek product is the Physicians Formula Organic Wear Dewy Blush Elixir. And you can see that this is quite dewy, but this will give you a little bit more pop. You can see it has like a very glossiness to it. They actually incorporate oils in here to give it that sort of glossiness, but there's no coconut oil, which is a great thing. I mean, I don't use coconut oil in my makeup products, so that is good, but you can see that it just gives such a glossy look to your cheeks. This actually lasts a lot longer than some products like it because it has so much pigment, and on my skin, I just find that it fades to give you like just a soft, glassy, like juicy look to your cheeks as the color fades with it. But yeah, I've actually been really impressed with the way this makes my skin look. It makes it look really pretty and juicy, but I have to be ready for a glow, you know what I mean? I can't be afraid of a very glossy product. So if you've been interested in this is the shade Gorgeous Peach. I have been really enjoying it. You also get quite a lot of product for the money. As a whole, I really liked this launch. Next up, we have the Canmake Cream Cheeks. This is a Japanese brand. I initially tried these out and was a little bit wishy-washy because the shade that I had a bunch of sparkle in it and it just looked a little bit chunky, but I have since picked up a few shades that do not have that in, and I've just found these to be such a pretty and unique formula. A lot of Asian makeup I think has more innovative formulas than American makeup, if I'm being honest. So it's really been like a delight to try these out. This is the shade 05 and this is the shade CL08. This is very, again, super similar to Daiquiri Dip from Fenty, so if you were interested in that. And we also have like this Big Apple red shade, which is CL01. It's like a cream gel formula that I find to be pretty unique. I find that this shade is more of like a powdery, natural finish, whereas these are a little bit more on the dewy side, but as you blend them out, they kind of set down a little bit. And I don't think that these will be too dewy for those of you that don't like a dewy blush look. I think the formula is super unique. I do have to be honest though, I find myself reaching for other formulas. So they're not my favorite, but I do think the texture is really unique. I think the shade selection is great, and there are some unique shades to choose from. Next up, we have the Stila Convertible Color. Now, I actually found out about this product way back in the day from Lisa Eldridge. She really loved this formula because it's just so creamy. This is the shade Lilium, just a very basic, like pinky nude shade. But I just think cream blush formulas have come so far since this released. This was one of the only cream blushes that you could find on the market for a while. I think it's fresh, I think it's pretty, but there is just something that's a little bit lackluster to me. It's creamy, but it is like a touch more tacky than I would enjoy. So yeah, this is certainly not a bad product. I just think we've come a long way with cream blushes, and there just are so many more unique formulas to choose from now. Another stick formula that I'm a big fan of is this one from Physicians Formula. It's their Natural Defense Stick Blush. And I don't know if you can even tell like how creamy this is, but this is a very, very creamy cream blush that has a softness to it. It's very flattering on the skin. It almost has like a touch of a blurring effect. You can see it shears out very quickly because this isn't a super pigmented cream blush. But if you are someone that is afraid of cream blush, you want to start off on the sheer side, you want a formula that's really easy to just swipe on the cheeks, blend, and be done, this is a very beautiful formula. It's not going to disrupt any makeup, and the formula isn't super dewy, but it just has a very soft creaminess to it. Again, that like touch of a blurring effect that I think is cool. This is a very pretty cream blush stick that I just think is so good for those of you that are just getting into cream makeup. A new launch from NYX are these Sweet Cheeks blushes. They're the soft cheek tints, and I have the shade Almost Famous, and it's like a very vibrant orange shade. Would be a really pretty lip color actually. And I also have the shade Nude Tude, which is very much like a brownie nude. You can see with these that they actually blend out very easily. They have like a sort of silkiness to them that makes them pretty spreadable. I like that they come in a sort of doe foot applicator to just add a couple of dots to the cheeks and blend out. I like that they have like a softness to them and a plushness to them. I haven't been overwhelmed with the formula, but I also haven't really given them a proper go yet. So maybe I'll update you guys in an upcoming video on how I liked these. But so far, I think that the formula is very creamy. Next, we have the Naming Playful Cream Blushes. And this is actually another Korean brand that I was trying out, and you can see super unique shades. This is the shade Jumpy, and actually when you go to apply this, it comes out more like as a soft pink. It definitely has like a touch of purple, but definitely not as scary as it looks in the pan. There's also the shade Inflamed, which is probably my favorite because you guys know I'm not afraid of a bold red shade. And I also bought this yellow one because I was hoping it would be some sort of dupe for Fuego Flush from Fenty. It is not. This is just a kind of bizarre blush shade. It's just like a yellow mustardy shade, which, you know, with the purple, it actually looks pretty on the cheeks. It just looks like that soft sort of pink, but this just looks straight up yellow on the cheeks. I've used it a few times and am not a fan. But this line has a lot of unique and pretty shades, so if you were interested in any of them, I think the formula is really nice. Nothing absolutely innovative, but I think they're a nice basic cream blush. And if you wanted to play around with some more unique shades, but you want the formula to still be there and work with you, I definitely think this formula will. And lastly, we have a blush that I think was discontinued, and it's the Colourpop blush stick in the shade Roosevelt. And I love this very, very much. It's like a gel cream stick formula. It's super, super unique. But I just think this is such a gorgeous shade. I love how easily it blends on the skin as well. It shears out well, but you can still build it up. The sort of gel cream stick formula I always found to be very unique, so it's a shame that they are discontinuing them. But if you happen to see them around and if they end up going on sale, I definitely recommend checking them out because this shade Roosevelt is also a really perfect blush bronze shade. But yeah guys, I mean, that's about it. If you have any other questions about specific formulas, you know I'm always in my comments, so feel free to drop a question down below and I'll get back to you. And remember that if you enjoyed today's video, I would love to have you back on my channel, so please make sure to subscribe before you go. And with all of that, everyone, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one.